Welcome, welcome, welcome to this very first episode of Exploring Deeper. And I'm so excited because in this first episode, I have a conversation with my best friend, Sama. We met in a cult, hopped into other cults, and luckily got out and supported each other along our recovery journey. Sama was groomed at the age of 17 into a romantic relationship with a cult leader and his small following. We dive into various topics from spiritual abuse to trauma to embracing your rage with pink boxing gloves. Samasati is a registered therapeutic counselor and professional Vedic astrologer living in Victoria, BC, Canada. She is also a 2-time cult survivor and specializes in working with fellow survivors of cults and narcissistic abuse. Now let's dive in. I'm so excited because I am having Samasati on as my very, very first guest. And oh, I feel like I'm already getting emotional. She's just supported me through my entire journey of while I was in it. And then while I was starting to wake up to like, there's some red flags going on here. And then you really were there for me to help me get out. And even though we were both kind of confused and had no idea, but you're like my one friend that was with me in the cult, after the cult, recovering, and now helping others recover from cults. I feel like you, out of all people, know my entire cult journey. So I'm just so excited to like have you on and just start talking and see what comes up.
And vice versa. Like, it's so unique to have like a friendship like that, because it's cool because it's like we were both unsure at the same time. We had the same thoughts of like, is this kind of weird? Or maybe I'm just thinking this thing and I'm wrong, or what have you. But because we're both going through that at the same time, like, we're able to support each other more. And yeah, it's such a unique situation.
I know, seriously.
Like, we're in the same line of work and we're best friends and we were in the same cult.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It might not be your normal interview or normal talk, but I think it's a good thing. For people who don't know you, do you want to share about your first experience in the first cult that you were in?
Yeah.
Like how you actually got into it, or what drew you in, and how you woke up and realized, shit, what am I in, and how you got out.
Yeah, the first cult I was in, I was 17 when I met this spiritual teacher. I'm not going to name names just for sake of lawsuit stuff. But yeah, so I met this spiritual teacher, double my age. I was really depressed at the time, like suicidal. At the same time, I was getting interested in things like Buddhism and that kind of stuff. And my brother was really interested in spirituality or the conscious community, going to like kirtan and ecstatic dance and all that kind of stuff. And as a 17-year-old, I was introduced to this, and I just had this experience of like, oh, I feel welcome. I feel like my heart can shine and express itself freely, like a level of acceptance I hadn't felt before in like high school. And then around that time, I met a spiritual teacher who was double my age, who already red flag, right? Double my age.
And especially at 17.
Yeah. And so it didn't start of like having a guru. It started with meeting this guy who was kind of like a mentor to me, super kind, like the whole love bombing stage, right? Super kind, super sweet, just putting all of his energy into me. And we did have like a romantic relationship, kind of on and off for multiple years, starting from when I was 17 and he was like 35, 34, which now that I'm 29, it's like, oh yeah, that's not cool. At the time, it's the whole like, age doesn't matter. Age is just a number. And when you're 17, no, it's not. It's actually really inappropriate. But anyway, yeah, I was in a relationship with him on and off for about like 5-6 years. It got worse every year kind of thing. Like, he became more of this, like, from a mentor to like a guru to this like master kind of vibe. I think sometimes he actually called me his master.
He had you call him his master?
Something like that. Kind of like how Osho, because he followed Osho teaching. So I think like Osho called himself a master or something like that. But I was in this cult with just a few people. It was kind of like a smaller group, so it's less known. But yeah, just a lot of narcissistic abuse. I would even go as far as to say like sexual abuse. Just being so young and having had gone through so much mental health illnesses, like depression and anxiety and who knows what else. I had an eating disorder as well at the time. I was just so young, and I had all these pressures of being this spiritual person, like awakening, going beyond my trauma. Trauma's not real. Just like wake up like that. Wake up, wake
Yeah.
up. And it was so much pressure to become enlightened, whatever that even means now. And I was just doing it for approval. Like I was just
And he was offering you, it sounds like, the answers, right, to all of it. I've got the magic pill
yeah.
for you that can cure the anxiety, the eating
Yeah.
disorder, the depression, like all of it. Plus, you get to have a lover on top of it.
Yeah, and it's like the on and off stages of narcissistic abuse. So you get all of that love and approval and everything feels good. And then what do? They hurt you. They say you're
Yeah.
not good enough. They poke at you and your self-esteem goes lower and then they pick you back up. And so that I could only depend on him. Like I learned that I can't trust myself. Like he would say this, I can't trust myself. He was the only person I could trust. He represented truth
Wow.
to me. And like even all other teachers, he would like mock them. Every other teacher, they weren't good enough. Only he was, and I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and when you're so young, you haven't been exposed. I mean, I got into the cult much later in life, so I can't even use the younger age.
It doesn't matter, but yeah.
But I think especially at that age, you're so impressionable. And because it started as romantic and then he became kind of the guru mentor, or was it vice versa? It was kind of a mixed blend of...
Kind of a mixed blend. Before the label of guru came, I would consider him a mentor or like some sort of teacher. I mostly considered him like my best friend at the time. I was in high school and I would have a spare in high school and I would go to his house over lunchtime and stuff, but we would hang out and it was friendly and it was kind of like flirty, romantic. But at the same time, I looked up to him.
Yeah.
And then over time, when he started to, kind of share with me more than teach at first, things about Osho or different spiritual teachings, then I started to be like, okay, he's like a teacher. Okay, he's like a guru. Okay, he's like master. Oh, yeah, etc.
How did you actually meet him?
I met him through, how did I meet him? Oh, the first time I met him, he came to my house. A guy I was dating at the time, who's still following him, I had met him at a farmer's market playing music or something. And they invited him over. We were having this like conscious, sober party. I mean, in one hand, like my parents was like, I'm 17, it's like a party with no alcohol. But like at the same time, it's a 35-year-old. And we did it when my dad was away. Sorry, Dad, I think you already knows. But he was away, I think, like in Phoenix or something. We had the house to ourselves. And so we invited a few people over and he was one of them. And I just immediately was magnetized. He had the whole dead eye thing, right? That you think is so magnetizing. I don't even know how to explain it. Just empty eyes, psychopath eyes that I was like,
I know those eyes. I know those eyes very, very well.
Of course.
Like thinking that it's an enlightenment because there's nothing there and I'm such an emotional being. Wow, they're so much more enlightened than me. Yes. If only I could have an ounce of that.
Yeah. Oh, they're so empty inside. That's so good. No. Yeah. But he had those and yeah. And then we just started to talk on like Facebook Messenger every day. And he thought I was older than I was. But then he found out, he knew I was 17 and he was still messaging me every single day.
Wow. And did it take a long time before he started to cut you down? Did the love bombing phase last a long time? Do you remember like how he slowly started to cut you down in those ways?
I actually remember the first thing that happened, we were super close. Like he was, again, my best friend. And what happened I remember I was studying for like my final exams and he just texted me saying, I have to cut off from you. You're not good for me, kind of thing. Like kind of saying that it was like I had toxic energy. Yeah. And this anxious attachment in me was just like, no, because he at the time, again, represented this freedom. Like, oh, I can just be myself around him. He accepts me for who I am. All of that stuff that I've been like, I've never felt. And so it felt like I was dying, like I was bawling my eyes. And so he did that for like a day. And then he's like, okay, I'll stick around kind of thing. And then he did that again, like maybe a couple months later. And that was a theme. He did that like for the 6 years I knew him, 5 or 6 years, multiple times, sometimes lasting months, sometimes lasting only a couple days. And it was always because of me being toxic. Or he would say, I think he said something like, I am trying to grow an apple tree and you're a rotten branch.
Wow.
He's like, I have to cut you off before you grow to the other branches.
So did that put more pressure on you to become more pure, more
yes.
enlightened, to be able to?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have to do all this stuff to be good enough. Sometimes after a while, it also got kind of like pissed off, like kind of angry, like, okay, whatever kind of thing. But for the most part, underneath, I was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Something's wrong with me. Yeah.
When you're in those cultic situations, there's not a safety to even talk down or bad about what is going on, right?
No.
I don't know about you, but for me, it was like, yeah, there's no safety to even discuss these things.
Yeah.
In a sense, right?
And in my experience, if he found out,
oof, yeah,
I would be a cut off branch, or it would be awful if he found out. And it's so funny because, not funny, but he would talk shit about us all the time. Like, whether like someone, like maybe there's like 5 of us and one of us isn't there, like for hours he would talk shit about how that person isn't, you know, matching up to spiritual ideals or making fun of them, and we would go along with it. And it breaks my heart to think that I did that to people that I considered my friends and that I loved, because it was just this like, yeah, it was just this weird gossiping energy. But he could do
it's
it,
almost like a
couldn't.
survival thing. Like you have to do it in order to stay in, right? It's kind of like a requirement to be in these groups.
Yeah, to be approved of by the leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was a big part, I think, when I came out too, was to really mourn how I had treated other people. You know, I had to face that part within me. I had that us versus them mentality. There was a superiority of my group and this person is the best and everyone should join this and everyone else is missing out. And when you touch that, it's one of the most painful feelings. I couldn't believe I had felt that way, or I don't know, just the mourning of that was massive.
Yeah. Yeah. Like on one hand, there can be compassion for yourself of like, oh, I understand why I had those behaviors.
We were groomed to do that, right?
But on the other hand, like that sweet heart in us, like that empathetic heart, it's like, I can't believe I was like that, because it's not even like how I was mean to people in the cult itself. Like you said, it's like the outsiders of like people that just don't get world. It, or and it's like that self-righteousness of this is the answer. Like this one thing is good for 8 billion people. Like, are you kidding me? But like,
it's the answer, the golden ticket,
this one person. Pill. Yeah.
That's abusing me and treating me like shit.
Even though I'm suffering so much and crying all the time.
I'm so depressed and want to kill myself, but I swear it's good, you guys. It's just your ego dying. Like, because what were the excuses or the justifications that you had at the time that kept you in, do you think?
I think, again, kind of like what keeps a lot of people in narcissistic relationships or with their abuser. If it was him just like cutting me down the entire time, I would have left.
Yeah.
There was moments like, you know, it's like that reeling me back in, giving me all that love and approval and saying like all the compliments, like how spiritually enlightened I was, whatever. Because I had learned that was like the ultimate, you know. I never thought that until I met him, but I learned like that was the end all. And so if he was starting to assure me that I was reaching that, then it's like, oh, and I trusted him, right? So I'm like, oh, he knows. I trust him more than myself. So, and then also, just like that romantic love and just the fun times. I think being in these kinds of dynamics or relationships, it's like, it's so black and white and it's so extreme. So the highs are super extreme and then the lows are super extreme, but it perpetuates that like, oh, but I just want that high.
Yeah.
And like,
I gotta get back to that. Yeah. And then it makes it worth it to like go through all the lows, because at least the high is better than,
Yeah. But meanwhile, the high is actually just dissociation. And the lows is feeling all the pain. And then you dissociate and you think you're in bliss and you're like, oh.
No, I'm just cut off from my body and my feelings and everything.
Totally.
And living in this fantasy world. Yeah. God, I so relate. And that's, I mean, that's what I think I've found so fascinating, is just the similarities. That's why I love talking about like your situation, because it's almost like the domestic abuse, romantic relationship cycle, right? And then also the cultic dynamic of, it's not just a relationship partner, but it's also the cult. And it's like in my studies, you know, we're studying trafficking and gangs and just every kind of coercive dynamic, and it's all the same. And I think it's so important to point to, like what you said, it is the abuse cycle, like all of these underlying patterns of how this happens. It's just so similar. And once you can wake up and start to see the patterns to one, you can start, it's like it all starts to unfold and break down. I mean, I looked back to our messages when we got out of the second one, and we were calling the leader narcissistic, but at least I didn't know even what that meant. It was funny. We were using that term, but I was like, God, he's such a narcissist. And I found those messages back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But yet it still took me another few years before I actually woke up to what we had been through and what that was.
Yeah.
Because did you feel like when you got out of this first, the small group dynamic and that relationship, well, first of all, how did you get out? Did you wake up to the depths of what that was?
It was different. So how I got out was, it just got so painful. And to the point where, because he would ask us for money all the time, like all the time. And we gave it like all the time. I gave him so much money and so many, I gave him my computer, my keyboard. He sold that, like so many things. I was traveling at the time and I was going to meet him somewhere in Asia. And I landed in the same country, but not in the same city. I was going to see him the next day. And before I went, he's like, before you come, I want you to give me the rest of your money and ask your mom for $2,000. I was so used to this, him making these demands all the time. And it just got to this point where I was like, no. And I didn't. And then I just didn't answer him. And I was terrified. Like I was terrified. And I was in Nepal and I went through such like a dark night of the soul for months. And I believed that I was wrong. So my wake up situation wasn't like, oh, this is so messed up. Like he's wrong. It was, I'm wrong. I'm not willing to surrender. I can't, because that was his whole thing, like surrender to him basically. And
be my servant.
Yeah, essentially, right. But like it meant like a spiritual surrender, surrender your ego, surrender your needs, surrender even your physical needs, all that stuff, which, but so for so long, I thought I was the problem. And then when I was it's funny enough, that's when I started to watch videos of Bentinho.
No. Was it because of the opposite energy of empowerment, right?
Yes.
Yep. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, ooh, this teacher, I should follow him instead.
That's what happens is cult hopping. It's like we leave one because like it sounds like the first one was all about the surrender and the polar opposite wants to come on board, the empowerment. And then thinking that it's quote unquote better. That's what I noticed for mine. It was like cult hopping. It was like, no, well, when I left Bentinho, the next one was all about the inner child and it was all about love and emotions. Which Bentinho does not do. Does not accept your emotions. Like you don't have, inner child, you're not a person. You're not a person. Like, you're not your thoughts. And you go to the next one, right? Oh, I never even knew that.
Yeah. Like it was in a weird way. Like that's what helped me get out of my dark night of the soul.
To step into empowerment, you mean?
Yeah. I deleted all social media. I didn't talk to anyone for like 2 months, just alone in this country. And then I started to watch videos, like YouTube videos of Bentinho. Then I started to feel empowered. What I recognize now, like false sense of empowerment. At the time, I guess that's what I needed and that's fine. But it was a false sense. It was like, again, dissociation. And it was like, I'm going to bypass all of these bad feelings instead of going into them or going to therapy where I can deal with them.
Well, therapists don't understand the spiritual side. Like they just don't get the enlightenment, right? Like,
yeah, they're like,
that's what I was taught. You can't trust them.
Yeah, that's totally. And I also had really bad experiences with therapists when I was a teenager that I was like, I don't wouldn't want to go there. It's like all of a sudden just like ecstatic. And yeah. And then I followed Bentinho really intensely. And
so that's what got you out of the first one, was finding these new teachings that felt more empowered to help get you out of that dark night of the soul.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just like black and white. I still took about like a year to like transition out. And also feel like, was it me? And then I had, my ex-boyfriend, who's still a good friend of mine today, like he supported me so much and kind of just continued to be like, no, like you're not wrong. That guy is fucked up. Like that guy's messed up. Like you didn't do anything wrong. And more and more people. When I was a teenager, I had like interventions from my family and they knew that this dude was not okay. And so having more support from like people like that I had honestly like cut out for so long, because that's what you do when you're in a cult. So over time,
I remember you showing me even just emails and text messages And I was like blown away, like, whoa. And I think that's the thing. I looked at that and I was like, well, that's not what I'm in. Like, it's not that bad, or it's not that overt. I could see the abuse so clearly in that documentation. But for me, like, I didn't have specifically that kind of documentation. So I think that's why it was so confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so easy to compare. Oh, that person really was abused. This isn't abuse. This is actually helping me, even though I still feel like shit every day, even though I still
I didn't get branded. Like, my vagina didn't get branded, like I didn't have a cottering iron set to my pubic area.
Oh.
That's honestly what I was going through when I woke up. Well, I didn't get branded. It's not that bad. It took me a long time to even realize, especially these sophisticated, all types of emotional, psychological abuse, that you don't need any of the physical. You don't even need to have the sexual relationship, that it can be just as destructive. It can be just as, we can't compare notes.
And, considering like you were in like an inner circle, like you were close to the person, but it could still be harmful for someone who's not. Just the way the teachings are being taught.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually what woke me up. Was one of my clients, I didn't know that they were following the same teacher. And she had never gone to a retreat, never even met him in person. It was all online on YouTube and on Crowdcast, like some of the online events or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was suicidal, rock bottom. And then one day, I think I mentioned, Bentinho's name, and she just started crying. She was like, what? Like, we didn't know that there was that. She didn't know I was in the inner circle. And I had shared my story. This was before even I came out publicly. And I think that's what made me step into wanting to be a whistleblower. Because it's like, oh my God, it's not just the inner, like, I thought it was just us inner circle people or the ex-girlfriends and stuff. Like, I thought it was just us. But when I heard about her, who was on the outer rings of this cult, it lit this fire of, I have to speak out. I have to start sharing, no matter how scary it is. And so many people, like, even when I came out and started whistleblowing, so many people didn't want to speak up because they're like, oh, well, it wasn't as bad as you inner circle people. I wasn't as close to him. I didn't have those one-on-one distortion readings. I didn't have those group distortion readings. You can't compare.
Yeah. I think it's just like, you kind of have to get like, okay, since following this person, whether you were in the inner circle or a romantic partner, or just like never met them and just followed them online, since then, how have you been doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's your life been like? And again, it might be the high highs and low lows, but still, it's like, that's not really sustainable either. Like, that's kind of a red flag for me. If you're going like super high and then plummeting.
And that's it. Is there practical changes in your life? And that's the crazy thing, right? It's like, you look at these teachers and they're promising you divine relationships or unconditional love, or what were some of the other retreats that he had? Like, be in God's bliss for eternity. Like, be
bliss
the eye
stuff.
of the hurricane.
Yeah. That's what we went to.
Be the eye of the hurricane. So no matter what problems come, you are the center divinity, the one that never changes,
Yeah.
And yet I was a freaking hurt, and always thinking that I was the problem, right?
Yes.
And always thinking that you're the problem. Something is wrong with you. And you look around and so many people can be good at wearing that mask and pretending to themselves that they're okay. And so you look around and no one's talking about that they're not okay. And I was the one that was, telling all the other inner circle people, like, I was suicidal, and I said I wanted to kill myself. Like, for months, I wanted to die. I was in so much suffering and anxiety and depression, but they just told me I was being attacked by entities, or that, calling me that I was the weakest link on the team and I was the main issue.
The weakest link on the team.
Yeah, I have a text message from the group. Yeah, and he called me out in front of everybody else saying that Callie is the weakest link on the team. Everybody needs to watch out for her. And it was like, oh my God, I am the weakest link on the team, because nobody else was that depressed. Like, no one else was that, and
so they said. So
right,
they pretended.
Well, exactly. And waking up, one of the biggest turnarounds for reframes for me was, and it's funny because not funny again. It's like funny, not funny, right?
I know.
But I hate using that word, but I think people understand.
Yeah.
But working with other people, they've gotten similar things of they were told that they just couldn't make it. They didn't have what it took to become enlightened, or they didn't have, right? That they too were the weakest, whatever it is in their own language. They all have their own terminology, or you're a low density or service to others being, or whatever it is. But what I realized was being called the weakest link on the team was actually the biggest gift in a sense, because it was like, you couldn't fall for my manipulation. Like my manipulation just didn't work on you, Callie. Like, and I always thought something, and I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, that's right. I didn't fall for all the bullshit that was being given. I mean, I fell for it, but I didn't fall for it in the sense of being completely washed of it. It really helped me not kick myself down. You know my story of getting out of Bentinho. Mm-hmm. And then falling into another one-on-one narcissistic, psychopathic, horrible dynamic where it was a cult of 2, well, kind of 3, because you were in it with us.
I was a friend about it. We've been through so much together.
We've been through so much together.
You were more affected than I was. I was like in Canada.
And I was living with this person, and they were absolutely treating me like shit. And it was the same thing of, oh my God, they pop through the absolute, they become enlightened. Yeah. Because that was the thing in that community was enlightenment, which they called popping through the absolute. And they kind of coined it as this one instance that you'd pop through and then you would be there. Mm-hmm. And so this woman in that community claimed to have popped through to the absolute. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to follow her now.
I know. Both of us,
right? Like, oh, she's way more enlightened than Bentinho, because we kind of knew that something was off with him. So we left him for this other girl.
And she was fun because she was our friend. So it's like,
she was our friend. Like, it was close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And little by little, she was like slicing me down, cutting me down, telling me that I was weak, that I was too anxious, too this, too that.
Yeah.
Nothing I did was ever good enough. I mean,
so
we leave one thing for the next.
It's kind of like reminds me of like if we grow up in stress, like if we're kids and we have like a lot of trauma around us and we're stressed out, our nervous system is stressed out. That's our baseline. Our nervous system.
That's what we're using. It's our comfort zone, right?
Yeah. And so resting or like the normalcy of being treated kindly, it's so uncomfortable. It's like, that's not normal. That's a threat.
And I think too, because that's what it took for me to start to begin to heal, is I had to stop everything, and I had been traveling and walked the Camino 800 miles across Spain to move this anxious energy. Like I didn't know that what I was running from, in a sense, because when you stop to actually feel what's underneath, I mean, it was life shattering. We weren't even talking at that time when I was going through that. I didn't talk to anybody. I'd lost every connection in my entire life, because when you slow down, I mean, that pain, I can't even describe it, of just stopping. It's just, you become unfunctioning. Like, did you have to ever go through something like that, or was yours more gradual?
I think that's sort of what I went through when I was in Nepal. Maybe a little bit different and then maybe more gradual over the years. But I know what you're talking. Because the thing is, and if like a lump, you go through it really hardcore, there's still so much more to go through. Like the grief continues. Sometimes you go through a lot at once and most of it done in a way, but the grief continues. It's like another thing that reminds you of it, and you're like, oh, and I still get those moments. But I think when I first left that one teacher, I went through a huge grieving process. Alone in this country, in Nepal, no money, suicidal, just like, what's the point? Like questioning everything, still thinking I was the problem, but like questioning at the same time. I read a list of 23 signs of covert narcissism, I remember. And he was like 21 out of 23 or something. And it was like, if they're like 5, it's a red flag. And I was like, oh my God. But even then I was like, but maybe it's not.
Right? Isn't that crazy? We doubt. Yeah.
I think my journey was a little bit more like just like a big like boom, and then time like trickles down, and then another like grieve, and then etc. Because you went through like you went through a big, because we were talking.
I had to wake up through I had to wake up to all of them at once, where I think you took the time at least to grieve from the first one, which probably supported that process. This is what I think people don't understand is even when you see the sign, like going back to that list of covert narcissists, you can read the list. But what do you think I want to like kind of go deeper into that. Like, why do you think it's so hard? Because this is what I hear from everybody. Even reading all these books on cults and, even as I was helping others, there was still a part of me that didn't want to even say it was a cult or say that, I started to wake up to realize that one of my ex-boyfriends was a covert narcissist as well. And there's still that part in us that doesn't want to say, yes, I was in a cult, or oh my God, that was a narcissistic. Why do you think that is?
I have two things on this. First of all, if we admit that, your whole world gets turned upside down. It's like everything you thought was real it's a lie.
I can't trust myself anymore. Like I thought I could trust myself. I can't trust myself.
It's like, what does this mean about me?
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, and also
my fault.
And it's like, if I can't trust myself, or like, it's like how many times that we were talking about before of like the outside world of like, oh, you must follow this person. And then it's like, you're influencing other people. And it's like, oh my goodness, like I influenced so many people and I turned out to be like so problematic and so like violent. Yes. And so, that's the thing. It's like, what does this mean about me? I can't trust myself, etc.
And what do I believe anymore? I think that's the thing, right? So a lot of times how they get people in and why you stay is because they do use some truths or some tools that are actually beneficial, that can actually help you, right?
Yeah.
But they're not the owners of these things, but we're like, wait,
and
there's some truth in here. So I have to stay in here because there's some kind of truth that I'm trying to figure out, that I'm trying to like, right?
Yeah.
And if you step out, it's like, everything comes crashing down and that house that you built is now crashed and completely destroyed. And
absolutely.
Now who am I? What do I believe? Like I was so strong in my beliefs and now it's just all completely gone.
Absolutely.
Like, who am I now?
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, because what you said is so true. It's like they do have teachings that again, aren't their teachings, but there's like morsels of truth in it that we take and we're like, that was what was making it worth it. Like these little morsels of truth, but then it was all skewed and everything. My other theory is that in specifically spiritual communities, like when I was reading this list of like narcissistic tendencies, I was like, okay, the outside world, the non-spiritual, logical outside world deems this as this, but in the spiritual world, it's different because in my head, I was like, the only reason my teacher, guru, whatever, was behaving that way was to wake me up. He was a mirror for what I needed.
A clear mirror.
A clear mirror.
The prophet that was sent down and incarnated from this amazing world.
He showed up so that I could get triggered and I could...
Thank you for triggering me and for treating me like shit and abusing me so I could wake up to the divinity that I am.
I'm just showing up in the way, whatever they say, like spirit or the absolute or whatever wants me to show up for you. I have no preference on how I show up. I'm not a person. I'm just showing up just based on like what is. Like, I don't know, whatever spiritual jargon you want to use. And it's like that the way that was taught to me from the get-go, like you've seen some of the messages he sent me, like they're so abusively mean, like calling me a fat whore cow and like crazy stuff. And I'm like, this is to help me. This is to help me.
Right?
Yeah. And so that narcissist, it's just like, oh, like on the outside.
It's different. It doesn't count for this. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't count. That's the thing.
That's
it's like, they don't get
good.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And it's exactly that, because I remember even he would say things to me like, well, I don't like playing this role, but I have to. It's not my choice, right? It's like that dark horse. I'm playing this dark horse because no one else will, and I will love you that much. And it's interesting because the cult after that I got into, which was led by a woman who was very much in the emotional, feminine angelic inner child, supportive, that kind of thing. I remember our very first one-on-one session that we did. Did I tell you this? Like, she went in to heal my sexual abuse. She went in, like, this is the first time I met her, and she went deep into like one of my deepest sexual traumas from youth. And she made me go in and told me that my abuser, I want to get this right. Like, my abuser loved me so much.
Oh my God.
Because we were a soul family before we got here. And they loved me so much that they chose to incarnate as my abuser to rape me and abuse me in order to wake me up to the divinity that I am, so that I'm not affected by rape or anything else. So in fact, she then, it was a 1-hour session. So it had me dive into the depths of that pain of that sexual abuse, and then ended up turning it around to say, now love them, love that abuser. And any hatred or any feelings that you have is not pure, is not right, because this person loves you that much that they did that to you. They didn't want to, but they chose that role in order to love you more.
I want to punch something right now. Holy. And when you, at that time, did you recognize that was bullshit, or did you believe that?
No, I thought I believed it. I believed it because it was, I think there's, like you were saying, it's like the spiritual ideal of, there's this part of me that wants to be pure, that wants to just have love for everybody and everything. And I think this is the confusing part, right? Because there's a part that, even with any of these cult leaders, there is still a sense of me that can feel their wounded child, that they too were probably abused. And that's why they're acting like that. And that can touch into that caring, nurturing type that wants to just be unconditionally loving and forgiving. Because I don't want to hold anger in my heart towards anyone, because that's just hurting me. So these kinds of spiritual ideals, but not knowing that, well, okay, there's one thing to have compassion for the hurt child that's underneath, but it's another thing to say this abuse is not okay.
Absolutely.
And to stand as like a mama bear to say, fuck you. No, you don't get to abuse or disrespect. You don't get to, like, to have a voice and say no, or to stand up against it. Like, that's something I didn't even have in me. I mean, I think because it was ripped out from me, because all of these cult leaders, they don't want you to have anger. They don't want you to stand up and have a voice, because then all their shit would be, it would be confronted, and they wouldn't be able to get away with what they do.
And how much they shame anger. Yeah, that's why we don't have it, because it's so shame.
Exactly. So I think a part of me wanted to be forgiving and wanted to be loving. So it felt like, okay. And it took a lot of training for me to really unleash my anger and to have a voice. And what I'm realizing, and I'm kind of like starting to map out, is this process of recovery from cults and narcissistic abuse, or any kind of psychological, any kind of just fucked up behavior. Let's just call it that. Like, anytime that you get betrayed or hurt in any kind of way, that's really deep. There's this process where you have to almost have a polarity of this person is evil and wrong, to stand up and say no. And like, I don't even care about your trauma. I don't care about any of that. Like, that part needs to come online, to own that you were in fact victimized, that somebody treated you horribly. And that's what I hate too, because I think a lot of these gurus, Bentina included, really focus on shaming the victim. Look at these whistleblowers. They could have said no. They could have walked away at any time. And they try to shame that to get you to then think something's wrong with you, This is so,
I know.
So many different
things. I have like 10 thoughts in my head right now.
I know.
And then that turns into the whole, like, what you resist persists. It's just, these teachings are so ironic in how they're trying to have a neutral standpoint, but a lot of emotions are then criminalized, like anger, especially, even sadness, any of the bad ones. And that's in quotations, like bad, because like and in a society as a whole, like, we have labeled anger especially as like bad. But quickly, I want to come back to what happened to you with this woman. First of all, like, no one has the right to tell someone what they should, like, do in order to heal. People can make suggestions, but having that, like, I don't know how she said it. I just know what she did was completely not acceptable because it's so messed up. But like, what she did was essentially dismissing the part of you that had its boundaries crossed, which a lot of the time looks like anger. And before we can forgive, first of all, we don't even need to forgive. Like, it is not necessary for anyone to forgive. If they want to, great. But before anyone can forgive abuse, you have to acknowledge the victim. And when I say victim, there's no connotation of that being bad. You have to acknowledge the victim that was abused and how it feels.
That somebody targeted you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And overrode your boundaries. Because that's what anger is. It's like, when my boundaries are crossed, anger is like, no. Anger is just saying no. And of course, anger can get convoluted and get violent and what have you. But the core of anger is just empowerment of like, no.
Because there is wisdom in that. I mean, and that has been the most liberating thing in my recovery, is to honor my anger. And that's what, like, I just want to say thank you, because someone knows my anger, I think, more than anybody else. I just send her a voice note and I'm just like, you know, it's interesting because I just shamed it so much for so long. And you were like the one person that just loved it. We're like, like laughing at it, but in a good way. Like, yeah, Callie, you have every right to feel this way. And I was like, what? I do? Like, I'm not a bitch? Like, oh, this is okay.
It's also interesting how, like, I love this about you so much, how you just get over things so fast. Like, okay, so Callie will send me a message and I'll be like, not available for like the hour. Like, I'll be in a session or doing something. And then I get to my phone, she'll send me like a voice message and then a bunch of like other messages. And I start at the beginning and then I listen to the voice message and it's just like super angry about something, like, you know, letting something out. And then like she'll send another one totally like 10 minutes later. Just be like, oh my God, guess what? Guess what I found out about this thing?
Like, I'm starting a podcast and this is amazing. Like nothing happened.
Like nothing. So I think with you and with maybe with like a lot of people, like, people don't realize that when we have these outlets, a lot of the time it only lasts like 2 minutes when you really let it out.
When you allow it to be seen. Exactly. It has to be a safe space. Mm-hmm. You allow it the space to give it a voice, to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged, and you feel it fully. Like, that's what I've realized. It's a pressure cooker. All I need is just let the top off, let the steam out, and then like, 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh, that felt good. Okay, cool. I'm good. No trigger, no nothing anymore. Yeah. And I think that's the problem with a lot of society, is we don't have a safe space to share. And we're afraid of being judged. Or my narcissistic ex, every time I would share my anger or depression or anxiety or any kind of thoughts with him, I would get met with repercussion, like, you know, or threatened to leave, or threatened to, you know, there was never a safe space to share. So we suppress it and then it just lasts forever. And I think that's the beautiful part about, you know, the space that now we get to hold for other people, is I'm like, let it all out. Like,
so much anger.
Yeah. Come on. Like, you know, you get these sweet, you know, a lot of cults, you know, there's just like the sweetest, most innocent souls that have never even touched anger because they haven't been allowed to. But when they touch it, it's like scary as hell. But I'm like, no, yes.
I have pink boxing gloves. My partner would just hold up his hands and he's like, just do it. And I would just punch his hands with his pink boxing gloves. But a couple of my clients bought boxing gloves. I'm so happy about it. It's like, like anger. It kind of reminds me of like you're in an ocean and then a wave comes. It's like, if you ride the wave, okay, then it lasts not that long. But if you're like swimming away from the wave,
in that undercurrent, like getting pummeled,
it's just like so much
coming up for breath.
I know, it's so much worse than the wave itself.
Yeah. And it's so hard because when you're in it, I mean, and all the science of the brain shows this too, right? Like when you're in it, it's, even though I know this time and time again, it's so crazy how even when I'm in that depth of the emotion, when that comes up, it's so easy to just forget that, oh yeah, that's just going to pass. You have no access to the neocortex, like you have no access to your logical, rational brain that's going to be able to help you through that. And that's why I say what's helped me is to just be like, well, one, to have a friend like you.
Yeah, support networks. Yes.
Support of people who really get it and really honor your emotions and don't judge you for it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was relating it to almost like being like a kid, like a 2-year-old, like that, the terrible twos where they have the temper tantrum, like allowing myself to see when I'm activated or I've hit that core wound or something gets triggered, and to just see it. It is like a temper tantrum of a 2-year-old where I just have to hold that loving space and let myself go through the tantrum. There's nothing you can do for a child who's throwing a complete tantrum. You can't logically talk them out of it, or you just got to let that energy flow.
And
I think that's been huge.
The holder of that.
Right. Just to hold that safe space to be like, of course, sweetheart, you feel like that.
Yeah.
Of course you feel like that.
My own definition of resiliency. It's like, yes, when we're in the heat of the moment, again, like you said, how the brain works, our neocortex, we can't rationalize things. We're in that fight or flight dysregulation.
The lid is flipped.
We can't just like bypass the trigger, bypass the trauma and enter the bliss. Unless that's dissociation, which is also dysregulation. But essentially, it's like the more we experience like holding the emotion, and that's not to say that you always have to just go off the deep end into the anger or the sadness, because there's like safety levels of that too. Sometimes you need to distract ourselves or calm ourselves down or what have you. The more we feel these feelings, or the more we're with them and then they pass, the more we build that resiliency of like, okay, so I've done this like 400 times. Obviously we don't count, but it's like I've done this so many times, and every single time without fail it passed. And so for me, now I like wake up in the morning and I feel depressed, or I feel like super upset or what have you. Almost, not all the time, but almost every time I'm like, this is just what it is right now, and I know it's not going to last forever. Because every single time it passed. Even if it was just for a laugh, even if it was just for like an hour, it still passes.
Yeah. And really putting that importance on supporting my nervous system to calm down. Because when I learned about the polyvagal ladder and how the nervous system works and how trauma works, like that was massive for me. And what I share a lot with my clients, because it's like, of course you can't think straight. Of course you can't work. Of course you can't be creative. Of course you can't, because your whole system is shut down, or in dorsal, or even in sympathetic. And it's like, you have to honor where it is and support it where it is, of what it needs, and to ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I needing in this moment? And how can I give that to myself? And no, I can't, all these things come up, and it's like, okay, it's okay. And just keep giving that space again and again. And now I'm realizing it's like, even with the creation of this podcast, I was on a huge creation burst. And then somebody in another community said something, and it brought up this big trigger within me. And I had to just stop and allow myself to give up all this day of creation. And I just took a bath. Epsom salt is my go-to. Epsom salt baths, and like a Netflix or any kind of cult documentary or anything. Like, I love like all the murder and like psychopath, like, because I love analyzing. And now that I'm studying all this, it's like all going into my research. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, creation's back. Like everything's gone, right? When you take that time to help your nervous system start to regulate. One more thing I want to say too, and which can cause a lot of controversy, that I really disagree with in the field. I think you probably might have remembered when this happened, but when I got out of the cult, I actually joined one of the top cult experts, one of their programs, and they were teaching about the window of tolerance. You have to keep your nervous system within this window and not get too activated, and also not become too dissociated, but to keep it within this frame. But I think what that did for me, the window of tolerance really did not work for me specifically. Not saying it doesn't work for other people in certain situations. It's very helpful. But especially as a cult survivor, where my emotions and my thoughts and my feelings were so controlled and regulated, and I was told how to feel and what to feel, and that these things were okay, that window of tolerance for my nervous system, like trying to keep me within that, to keep me titrating and keep me, I even saw that somatic experiencing practitioner after I got out, and it was the worst thing that I think I could have done. And even though I loved the person, I loved her and I trusted her, but she also tried to keep me contained. And all I needed was like, don't freaking contain me. Like I had to express and feel and cry and like just do all the things. And that was the most healing. And then from there, now I can work with this and I have the resilience and I can have these tools and I'm not having the crazy bipolar swings that I used to have.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. You know, the main thing I think with this window of tolerance thing, my theory, Callie, is that your window of tolerance was probably actually just wider. So this is what I see all the time. And so like the window of tolerance is like what we can handle. And so it's like, just because people are crying, just because people are like wanting to yell, just because people are like seemingly explosive does not necessarily mean that they're out of the window of tolerance. What practitioners mostly assume is that, yes, they're out of their window of tolerance. But yeah, like, so I think for you, I think what the real thing is that you weren't actually out of your window of tolerance. So you're like, no, like stop making me inhibit something that I'm comfortable with feeling, because
and I'm fine feeling deeply. This. Like, being angry and crying, like it's not that big of a deal for me because I'm used to feeling that. And I've been through so many dark nights of the soul where I'm suicidal. I can handle a lot of emotion and energy and not and thank you for saying that too, because I think it also is a reflection. I think this was why it was so upsetting, is I think my emotions and my anger or my things were reflecting to that therapist or those experts of like what things that they weren't comfortable with, things that they hadn't experienced. So they were trying to contain me so that they could feel comfortable, you know? And because when somebody has never felt to those depths and been in that much pain or suffering, then they want to control others to not feel that way, because they label it as bad or wrong, or and it might not be their fault. It can be out of a good, quote unquote, good intention. But I don't think people realize how actually detrimental that can be to somebody. And a lot of my clients have come to me almost as a last resort, in the sense of they've tried therapists, they've tried all these things and it's not working. And they come to me and they're like, why the hell isn't this working? And I'm like, well, were you allowed to like just share? And they're like, no, they, forced this they were using all these modalities and tools, and great. I use some modalities and tools too. But when the focus becomes on the modality and the tool instead of the person and what they need in that moment. And maybe in that moment, they just need to be heard, and stop putting your fingers in front of my eyeballs. Stop putting a pointer in front of me. Like, stop getting me to do some worksheets or
worksheets.
Questionnaires. Like, don't even do that to me. Like, I'm going to rip your head off. Like,
I am a no worksheet therapist. Yeah, no.
I do like worksheets. Well, I do
like the ones
some
that you've made. For like the red flags and green flags.
Yeah, like I like some things like that because I think it helps my logical brain get on board. It's helped me balance. You have to tune in because, again, your client might, like, if I had you as a client, not going to give you worksheets. You got to attune to the person. My research paper now on the recovery of cults and coercive control and narcissistic abuse is all about, my professor wants me to focus on the modalities that are going to help. And I'm like, it's really about the attunement and the safe space and the psych education to understand that they're not crazy, not gaslight. There's so much more that's underneath all of these things. And yes, lots of research that shows that these modalities can help. And I'm not saying that they don't, but I've done EMDR twice, but with therapists who were not attuned to me, and it made it worse. Like you saw me as a result of these other therapists. It was hell.
Yeah, I think that like what I've been noticing, because it's like, I'm a therapist. I know like different techniques. Like I specialize in like somatic work, and I'm really into internal family systems, and I love using that. I love using them, and I do. That being said, and so years ago, I had this thought that talk therapy is not that effective. Like, you need to get into the nervous system and all that stuff. And yes, you do, in order to like process a lot of trauma, like process it. That being said, now that I'm working with people that had their voice taken away, that feel shame for their expression.
Yes.
I have noticed that the part of like the best work in our therapy sessions is them just talking about whatever they want to talk about.
Yes.
And yes, we can still like go through things in a therapeutic way, but like talk therapy has surmounted, like it's, and even for me, I'm like, okay, like I was humbled in this because I had this idea that is not going to help necessarily. It's just going to run in circles. For some people, it might. But again, that's the attunement. And coming back even to the window of tolerance, I understand why therapists are, at first at least, at the beginning, when they're just getting to know a client, when they are not sure of someone's window of tolerance, because they don't know them. And not all clients are as self-aware or self-understanding of their window of tolerance. There are a lot that I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't even know when I'm dissociating. I don't know when I'm like getting hyper aroused or whatever. Like, they don't necessarily know. And so I do understand, with even being a therapist, it's like, okay, we want to go slow. And I'm also a fan of not pushing things at the beginning. Like in my therapy sessions, I don't, like, first session, I'm not just like, trauma, like, let's get into your biggest traumas, like what happens too fast, too soon, too much at once. If you go into therapy to heal too much, too soon, too fast, like, to get into that, the trauma is going to like constrict and be like, no, get away from me. You have to go slow. And so on some ways, like, I do understand why therapists take it slower with the window of tolerance. That being said, I think it's important for them to ask their clients.
Right. And to build that relation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, and to see what they need and what's working and what's not working.
Yeah.
Those who haven't been educated or experienced in coercive control, they don't realize that for a lot of it's they don't know how to speak up for what they feel and need. And that's why a lot of the times in the beginning with my clients, let's just first go to, what are you needing? And to feel safe to tell me when they don't like something. Yeah. And for me to be, I don't know what's going to be best for you. I can have ideas, and I backed by research of what might work for you. However, that might not work for you.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, looking at all these research papers, what they told me was best absolutely did not work for me.
Yes.
So I'm not going to assume that it's going to work for you, but I'm also not going to say it's not going to work. Like, maybe it will work for
let's
you.
Try
even though
it.
It didn't work for me. Let's try it. And let's
tell me
open
what you
a
feel.
dialogue. Yeah. And tell me what you didn't. And that was huge.
Yes.
I mean, one of my clients, she was able to tell me early on, she's like, I feel like I'm afraid to tell you this. And I'm like, you don't have to if you want to email it to me. And she's like, okay, I'm just going to tell you. And I was able to receive it and then take that feedback and change the way we did our session. She wanted me to hold it in a more masculine structure, being more structured in that sense, or logical with her, rather than the soft, accepting, surrendering approach. It was such a beautiful thing. And she's made so much progress, because it's like really trusting everybody's innate intelligence, that they know exactly what they need for their own recovery.
Yes.
And not for me to say, oh, well, she's been in all this masculine, so I shouldn't be more logical structured with her. She needs the feminine. Like, who am I to know that? I need to trust her guidance and her and this innate intelligence.
Yeah.
And wow, like, so much progress in such a short time, and her voice is coming back. And I think that's the thing, right? Especially when we've been abused in relationship. To have a safe, secure relationship. It doesn't have to be a coach or a therapist or it could be a best friend or somebody that but to have that safe, secure base to rebuild what it is, to be able to be like, oh, I can go to you and say that didn't feel right. And you're actually going to care about my feelings and needs. And you're actually going to want to change that. Huge.
Especially, okay, you're working in this, like, you're working with people that have been in cults where they didn't have a voice to ask for what they needed, and they weren't empowered to even know what they needed. And so even the fact that's amazing that they spoke up, like, that's already probably,
I know,
like,
and that's
awesome.
what I said. I was like, whoa, it could take a year before somebody speaks up to tell me what they need.
Because being in the position that, like, you and I are in, helping people, like, we can't deny it is a power dynamic. You just have to acknowledge that this is a dynamic. Like, yes, I am the therapist and there is a power dynamic, but I will treat you as an equal, and I will treat you with respect and unconditional respect. That being said, like, I am the therapist, you are the coach. There is, like, sort of an authority figure to that, and we have to understand that humbly.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of these, and that's what I say, anyone who is in any kind of power dynamic or leadership role or mentor or teacher or coach to really know this and take that self-responsibility and to know that the people coming to you are going to have trauma or might not be able to speak up. And so it's up to us to be able to give that space for them to do that, you know?
Yeah.
I think is huge.
Yeah. Like the number one ethics is like client's best interest. It's not about us. Like I try to tell my clients, I'm going to check in with you if this is working. Like after a few sessions, kind of like, is this working? I'm not offended. If you're mean to me, I might get offended. But like, if you just tell me like, I don't like this, or I don't want to answer that question, great. Now I know better how to help you. Like, please speak
And even
up.
if it did offend you, then that's my thing, not your thing.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
for
go to
me
therapy
to process
for that myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
If
it's
I
not
need to.
on you.
Yeah. No.
Right.
It's not about me.
Right.
And also being in this role, I feel like a lot of people in this role were able to set ourselves aside. It's just like this, I don't know about you, but when I'm with a client, it's like my stuff is like over here, compartmentalized, and I'm there. Like this is for them. It's not for me. It has nothing to do with me. It's like,
and you can't go in with an agenda of like, because they can feel that. I mean, people are smart. They can feel, and especially cult survivors, like you can't bullshit them or like have any kind of. It's like my spidey senses are like heightened. We just opened up this deep dive conversation and went into a lot of different things. But Sama's phone is dying. And so I think we're going to have to wrap this up for right now.
Part one.
Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap this one up? Any other loose ends or
so my mind goes completely
or
blank.
Bookmarks for next time? I know, right? Well, maybe it means
bookmarks for next time. Ooh, I guess what we're kind of talking about is like therapy or healing is not like a one size fits all. And that's another thing we can talk about, the whole one size fits all.
Yeah. Depending on context, complex.
Yeah. But understanding that it's not a one size fits all and a healing journey is not a one size fits all. Because next time we want to talk about using spiritual techniques or using things like astrology or human design after having left a cult or after having left spiritual teachings. And it's like, where's the balance here? Like, what is okay? What's not okay? What parts of the teachings do I want to keep for myself? Which ones are...
Do I throw it all away? Yeah. Like, is it all evil? Or like, can I open up to using some of these tools or things? Or
the nuance and how it's different for everybody. And
that kind of helps bring it full circle to how we first started the story of hearing your journey in the cult, of how you were told that it was a one size fits all approach, that this was the answer, that this was the reasoning, and kind of what we're coming back to now, it feels like is like, anyone that tells, PSA, public service announcement, red flag, big red flag, big red flag. If somebody tells you that they have the answer to all your problems and they have the one size fits all easy approach, big red flag. And let me tell you, it's like one of the easiest ones to fall for, because that's all I wanted. I didn't want to think for myself. I wanted somebody else to have the answers. I wanted somebody else to make all my decisions. I wanted the easy approach.
Shortcuts.
Like I wanted the shortcut. And I believe there had to be one, because this was so painful. Like, and I was so desperate that I would try and believe just about anything.
Yeah.
And that was a huge, susceptibility for me, and I believed in it. And I don't blame people, because it sounds really good. And like really wanting it to be true with all of my being, like really, really wanting it to be true.
Yeah. Like the urgency to want your situation, your suffering to change, like that urgency will believe anything. It's like, like even like, skincare ads, like all this stuff's like, this will get rid of my wrinkles. Great. Like, I need this to go away. I need this.
And I think it really comes back to, is your life practically improving? If your life's changing for the best and it's improving your relationships, your mental state, your emotional state, not kind of going back to what you said before of like, no, being in the cult, like I was getting more depressed, more anxious, hitting more of a rock bottom, me too. Right. And so that wasn't working, even though they told us that it was our ego or whatever being purified. And there was all this reasoning behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like, I feel like you did this in your package thing that you made, but it's like creating guidelines of like, what does practically getting better look like? Or what is practically feeling? Because it's like when I was in the cult, I was like, no, but this is the best thing for me. This is the best. I feel great. even though I know I felt bad, but those highs, I was like, I took them as like, this is the answer. So it's like, that would be cool to, instead of like the extreme ups and downs, it's like the sustainable, neutral, calm, the body, the nervous system, healthy relationships, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And isn't it like, it's just so beautiful because I feel like for the first time in my life, I like the neutral.
Oh,
like I love the peace
simple.
and the nurturing. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I was addicted to those high highs and low lows. Like now my body can't even, like, it's like, I can't go there.
Simple.
Like,
Simple life. Like I used to, compared to my life back then, I'm like, oh, my life's so boring. It's so nice. Like, I love my boring life. It's not boring, but like, I love it.
I was about to say, this woman is writing a fantasy book, making like crafts. She's got like 3 or 4 businesses going on. Like,
I'm not boring.
Vagina earrings, butt candles, fantasy novel written within a week. Follow her on TikTok. No, seriously. How can people find you if they want to?
I have Instagram, shamelessly you. Same with my TikTok account for therapy. I have a book talk account, but I'm not going to say that yet. It's a secret. It's very different than no one, whatever. If people find me, then they find me on there. It's very different than the therapy I offer. I talk about fantasy books a lot on there. But yeah, shamelessly you on Instagram and TikTok. And then my website is samasatikiya.com. And I think that's all those are my things. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll put in the show notes in case there's anything else that comes up. Well, thank you so much. I feel so honored to I love you so much.
I love you too.
I'm just so grateful for all your support through this crazy cult journey.
Ditto.
Yeah. Okay. To be continued.
Yeah.
Please be advised that the opinions and views expressed on this podcast are solely those of the guests, hosts, and are not intended as professional advice. The content provided on this podcast is intended for educational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a substitute for professional counseling or medical treatment. The opinions shared on this podcast contain personal experiences and opinions that do not apply to everyone or every situation, and anything shared is not intended to malign any religion, belief, group, person, club, organization, individual, anyone, or anything.